It's really hard to nail the spawn logic in a game as fast-paced as Call of Duty, and I understand sometimes they're just too crazy for the developers to anticipate. But sometimes the spawns on certain maps are just so wild and crazy, they have the potential to ruin the entire experience. What is up, my friends? Jimmy or Chaos. Today we're going to be talking about maps that are absolutely ruined by the spawns. This was a requested topic. I don't remember who it was in the comment section, but I do read every single comment on every single video, and whoever you were, this is for you. Let me know which of these maps you think has the most potential if the spawns had been better. That's the twist. And at number 20, Outlaw and Black Ops 3. Outlaw was the Wild West theme remake of the classic Standoff, and while most of the classic map remakes from Black Ops 3's era were good, I think this one stood out for some pretty negative reasons. I think the layout is perfect, and it worked perfectly well with the advanced movement of Black Ops 3, but the problem? It was the spawns. I really don't know what went wrong here, because the spawns on classic Standoff were almost perfect, if that's even a thing. But in the BO3 remake, they were weird. Made the flow completely different than it was in the original, not in a good way. It kind of wasted a perfect map layout, if you ask me. Standoff? Amazing. It's one of the best maps in Treyarch history. Outlaw? It just felt weird and unpredictable in a way that Standoff never was, and that could have been an epic remake. I think they just fell short. I thought they shot their shot and missed a little bit. I think it's a good way to start today's list. At number 19, Talsik Backlot in Modern Warfare 2019. It's been a while, but I'll say it. The last great modern Call of Duty. This map was a remake of classic Backlot from Call of Duty 4, widely seen as one of the worst remakes in COD history. Backlot? It absolutely slapped. Talsik Backlot? It absolutely sucked. It did. You know why? Because Infinity Ward completely annihilated the spawn logic by adding in some random courtyards on the ends of the maps that destroyed the flow. This honestly could have been a great remake if the spawns hadn't been completely annihilated, because frankly, the spawn logic and the general game flow was one of the best things about the original. Even if you hated Modern Warfare 2019, you could have had some fun on this map if that spawn logic hadn't been ruined, but the complete destruction of spawn flow, it destroyed the map. And number 18, Detroit in Advanced Warfare. We don't talk about this map very often. It is one of the most memorable maps from Advanced Warfare. It was a fan favorite because of the fast pace and the wide variety of viable playstyles, but how many of you remember just how janky the spawns could be? How many of you remember how easy it was to trap the enemy team in one place by yourself? Sledgehammer did a really good job at giving us a totally unique Call of Duty experience that we never had before, and honestly really haven't had since, now that I think about it. But there were going to be some oversights with this much new stuff thrown in the formula. Detroit was a great map. It was a great map when nobody was spawn trapping, when the spawn engine was behaving itself, but it was very common for the spawns to be the death of the experience here, which was a shame because it really was a cool jetpack map. If the fun factor of a map basically lives or dies whether or not the spawns are good, you've got a problem. At number 17, Shoot House in Modern Warfare 2019. I have said several times that I think this map is super overrated. I stand by that today. One of the biggest problems with the map, at least in my opinion, is that spawn logic. You're going to hear that a lot today. Even if I like the layout a little more, I still would have been annoyed at the fact that you could get hard locked in certain corners for minutes at a time and killed over and over and over again by people just jogging around the corners and keeping that spawn engine from putting you somewhere safer. I know some people love the map. I get it. I understand, but I thought it was super overrated. On top of that, the spawns, they weren't good. Frankly, I might have liked the map more if the spawns weren't so dumb. At number 16, Flak Tower in Call of Duty World War II. Now, Sledgehammer really had to push. They had to push COD World War II through development quickly, and that's one of the main reasons why it launched with the smaller number of core 6v6 maps, or actually, I think one of the smallest, if not the smallest, in COD history at the time. It's also why a lot of the launch maps had very similar layouts. You had deja vu, right? This looks familiar, but that's a topic for another video. Flak Tower was one of the fastest paced maps in the game on launch day. It was a classic 3-lane layout, a little bit of verticality mixed in the middle. Nothing special about the map, but that's not necessarily a bad thing because you knew what you were getting. You were getting a fast-paced, straightforward COD experience with some weird spawns. Flak Tower had a really large home base area, 2 of them. And I think that would sometimes confuse the spawn engine because you would spawn way back at the back of them, which meant you had to waste 3 to 5 to 10 seconds running from the spawn area to the actual map. And during those 3 to 5 to 10 seconds, you didn't have any cover, which meant you were pretty frequently getting killed immediately after spawning. I don't know why some of the COD World War II maps had so much dead space in the spawn area, but it really ended up confusing the spawn engine more than it was probably worth. And I remember I said that about COD World War II maps because just remember, no, you remember, not me. You remember I said that because we're going to talk about it. I got confused. AI kicked in there for a second. At number 15, to Haus and Vanguard. Vanguard, it's one of the craziest 6v6 maps in COD history because of the super straightforward layout and the constant action. Rah, rah, rah. You could call it a brain rot design. I would agree with you, but a lot of people loved it, minus the spawns in the Vanguard version. Now, when it was brought back in Modern Warfare 3, the spawns were improved upon, but they weren't great. It was way too easy to lock people at the two ends of the map, and it was pretty common for people to spawn right next to you, shoulder to shoulder, if you were on one of the edges near the A or C flag in domination. Again, I get the appeal. At least I think I do. But the spawns, they kept this map from being an all-time great. They really did. At number 14, Hardhat in Modern Warfare 2019. Yet another remake that was absolutely annihilated. I mean, it was. The flow of the original was gone. Yep, because of the spawns. Hardhat was one of the best maps in classic MW3. I was actually really excited for it to come back in Modern Warfare 2019. I thought it would be a breath of some new life into the multiplayer experience and liven things up. In the layout, they kept it about 99% the same. The new spawn logic, though, it destroyed the appeal of the map. The new spawns made the pacing super funky, made it way harder to play aggressively, and it made the experience far less balanced. Infinity Ward really has talent for ruining classic maps with horrible new spawn logic. I'm sorry, that's harsh, I know, but it's true. At number 13, Bog and COD 4. I love Bog, you love Bog. If you ever played Bog, it's legacy, right? Love it or hate it map, right? Primarily because of how easy it was for somebody to spawn trap the enemy team single-handedly if they knew what they were doing. I mean, with how long and open the map was, a skilled sniper and a good vantage point could really confuse the spawns. And there was also some brutal camping spots like the inside of the bus or the infamous bog wall spawn trap where one person could literally just watch the enemy spawn over and over and over and pick them off for free streaks. Bog is honestly a really good map when everyone is playing fair and not spawn trapping. But with how easy the spawn traps were, it wasn't uncommon for Bog matches to turn into complete blowouts, so I understand why a lot of people hated it. I also understand why a lot of people loved it. At number 12, Gibraltar in COD World War II. You guys remember all the stuff I said about Flak Tower? Well, Gibraltar, even worse. Very straightforward 3-lane map, but for some reason, Sledgehammer put a ton of dead space on the two opposite ends of the maps where the two teams would spawn, which meant whenever you got killed, there was a very high chance you were going to spawn way back at the back of the map and have to waste 3 to 5 to 10 seconds running through that dead space just to get back to the actual map and in the fray. And if you were constantly doing that, you were getting killed in the process. Spawn trapping on Gibraltar could be brutal because it wasn't even hard to do. Heck, you could spawn trap the enemy team on accident because the spawn engine would just keep spitting the enemy team into this big patch of nothingness at the back of the map where they didn't have a chance to get back into the action before you picked them off. I don't know why I'm getting all worked up here. Probably the worst example of COD World War II spawn system. Definitely had to be on today's list because the map wasn't even bad. The experience, it was destroyed by the spawn system. At number 11, Highrise in the original Modern Warfare 2. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Highrise is one of the most broken maps of the classic COD era. That's not me saying it was a bad map or that it didn't deserve its lofty reputation. I'm absolutely saying, though, that this map was way too easy to exploit, mainly because of how hard locked the spawns were. I mean, you basically always spawned in one of the buildings on either side of the map, meaning you could camp outside those buildings for a bunch of free kills, or you could just sit in the corner inside one of those buildings and pick people off as they walked out of the hallways. I'm not denying the map had a special place in the hearts of millions of COD players, including myself, but all of those millions of COD players, including myself, can agree that the spawns killed the fun sometimes. Half-decent player with a sniper and LMG? Too much work done. At number 10, Express in Black Ops 7. Now, Express is one of those maps that keeps getting brought back, and I'm not really sure why. I don't mean that as a diss at the map, because I did like Express back in the Black Ops 2 days, but I'm not really sure why it keeps getting remade, because it was never an S-tier map to begin with. It's good. It's not good enough to justify being brought back multiple times, but whatever. I mean, the Black Ops 7 version of Express, by far the worst of the pack because of how awful, you guessed it, the spawns are. Express wasn't built for the kind of ultra-fast wall-jumping movement present in Black Ops 7. You can tell just how much that messes with the spawn logic. But on top of that, you also have the fact that Black Ops 2 spawn system and Black Ops 7 spawn system are way different from each other. And obviously, Express was designed around BO2. So not only was this map built for an entirely different spawn system in a different era, but the insane movement verticality, they messed up the flow on top of the now terrible spawns. I mean, am I alone in thinking Express is just really bad in Black Ops 7? At number 9, Euphrates Bridge, Modern Warfare 2019. Might be a hot take. I think this map could have been great. I do, if the spawns were better. I know the bridge in the middle of the map is a huge balancing problem. but it wouldn't have been as nearly as much of a problem if the spawns weren't so predictable. If you run around Euphrates Bridge in a private match without people spraying bullets at you from the bridge, you will see a ton of space around the map that never ever gets used during online matches because the game refuses to spawn you in those areas regardless of how safe they are. Now, the main reason for the bridge in the middle of the map is a problem is because the people on top of the bridge, they already know the enemy team's going to spawn and where. And the reason they have the information is because the game refuses to spawn people somewhere else for some reason. I mean, do you agree with me? I need to know. If you guys think that's a hot take, get ready. The train is now chugging. At number 8, Gustav Cannon COD World War II. I'm just going to say it. This map would have been fun if the spawns were better. Heck, it basically had the same problem as Euphrates Bridge. Gustav, huge map, completely dominated by a patch of high ground in the middle of the map. But the middle of the map wouldn't have been so dominant if the spawns weren't so predictable. 1 or 2 people at the top of the map could hardlock the enemy team in place for the entire match despite the fact that there was tons of safe space around the map that the game never spawned you in. It just kept spawning you in the most obvious places over and over again for you to get picked off by the snipers at the top of the map. And all along, the game could have put you somewhere safe, somewhere easier for you to sneak up on the high ground players, but that never happened. Made the map completely unbalanced and a meme and frustrating to play on. Dislike the video all you want. Gustav Canning would have been a good map if the spawns weren't terrible. At number 7. Dome and everything post Modern Warfare 2019. I really used to love Dome in the classic Modern Warfare 3 era, not the World at War classic, which is great in its own right, but we're talking about classic Modern Warfare 3 Dome. Modern Warfare 3's Dome was one of the best maps in the game. Such a fan favorite that it came back both in Ghost and Infinite Warfare. Had some slight tweaks to the layout that fit those games, but it was good. In the post-Warzone era, though, Dome has become the most spanned map in multiplayer. It just isn't the same, which I blame on the spawns. There was a remake in Vanguard called Radar. It was decent, had janky spawns, kind of messed up the flow. Then it returned in Modern Warfare 2 2022 where the spawns were super messed up. Then it returned again in Modern Warfare 3 2023 where the spawns were slightly better but still messed up. And as many of you probably know, there was a massive overhaul to spawn logic because the board started with Modern Warfare 2019, and that led to classic maps like Dome turning into something totally different from their original selves. Even though the layouts look the same, it's different. Classic Dome was balanced and predictable, despite being fast-paced, but every remake of Dome during the Warzone era, frantic, random, and just, yeah. At number 6, Nuketown, and, well, let's go Nuketown 2025 and Black Ops 2 specifically. I mean, it's kind of wild that Nuketown 2025 is now officially in the past. Think about that for a second. Let it sink in, all you old COD heads. Now, I know Nuketown has always had issues, but the spawns in BO2 are actually bad. Spawn traps are possible on every version of Nuketown. We know that. Everyone knows that. But if you're playing Black Ops 2 back in the day, you remember the sheer number of times you were getting locked in one of the backyards because somebody knew the exact timing and spacing of the spawns. And the game refused to spawn you anywhere else. And like I said, backyard spawn traps are just kind of part of how Nuketown operates, but they're extra easy in Black Ops 2, and I'm not really sure why, because I remember Treyarch deliberately making tweaks to the map in order to prevent this from happening. It didn't work. I mean, if somebody in the comments actually has an explanation as to why spawn trapping in Black Ops 2 is so easy compared to other versions of Nuketown, I'd love to read it. I need answers. Now we arrive at the top 5. Vacant in Modern Warfare 2019. Now, Vacant was one of the best maps in COD 4. I was one of the many people excited for it to come back. I really thought it was going to shake up the formula, add some life to multiplayer. I know this sounds familiar, right? And while Vacant in Modern Warfare 2019 is nearly identical to COD 4's Vacant, the dreaded Modern Warfare 2019 spawn engine completely ruined it for me and other players. If you never played Vacant back in the day, you might not have actually noticed anything drastically wrong with Vacant in MW19, other than the usual BS going on with the game's spawn system. But if you did play the original, and then you play this version, several things pop up in your brain. Modern Warfare 2019's Vacant is much less structured because the spawns aren't safe or set in stone. There's much less emphasis on map control or the tug-of-war that happens in certain parts of the map because the game isn't actually trying to spawn you in a certain location anymore. I'm not kidding. When I say the Modern Warfare 2019 spawn engine, the overhaul, it destroyed classic maps. The layout is the same, but the flow is completely different. In my opinion, it's worse. Again, if you didn't play classic COD or Vacant, then you probably don't have any clue what I'm talking about. But I'll say it again. Us old heads know what's wrong. At number 4, Stakeout and Black Ops 6. I know everyone hates this map now, and rightfully so, but I'll just say what everyone is thinking. That's what I do. This map would have been fun if the spawns weren't so atrocious. Stakeout is a tiny little apartment map in Black Ops 6 that turned into everyone's favorite camo grinding map because of how BS and brain rot it is. But honestly, there's ways this map could be turned into something hectic but balanced, kind of like the original Shipment from COD 4 or classic Rust from Modern Warfare 2. Stakeout's design is super small. It leans hard on the brain rot button, of course, but the spawns were smarter. If they were smarter, it could have been fun. I mean, if you had a second or two longer to get your head on straight after spawning, Stakeout genuinely could have been one of the more balanced, fast-paced maps in the game. But instead, it uses spawns that encourage instant action as opposed to actual balance or game flow, which means the spawns are constantly flipping and you're spawning right next to enemies several times a match. It was a waste of a cool map concept. At number 3. Favela in Modern Warfare 3 2023. I can admit this. I see why so many people have been going back to MW3 over the last couple years. The game, it's flawed, but Sledgehammer did a really good job at turning it into a love letter for the entire Modern Warfare subseries, both the classic trilogy and the new era. But I do have to say, something about this game's version of Favela, it feels wrong. It feels off. I really think it's because of the spawns. Maybe this is all simply due to the fact that the Favela was designed in the late 2000s, so it was never built to be played at such a pace like now. But I don't know. So many spawn kills, spawn flipping. I don't know. It wasn't a problem in the original. The map looks gorgeous. The vibes are great here, but the spawns are all over the place, and I don't think it makes for a very good representation of what the map is capable of. I mean, in terms of fun, Favela plays better when everyone is moving slower. That's probably because this map was designed for COD 4, but it had to be cut for time, which is why it was in Modern Warfare 2. Favela just isn't built for the gameplay or spawn logic of Modern Warfare 3 2023. I think it shows. At number 2. Scud in Black Ops 6. A perfect example of a newer COD map that could have been a fan favorite if the spawns weren't so... It's a really cool setting, solid layout, lots of different dynamics to experience. But when people are spawning all over the place and you're getting plopped in the middle of a giant patch of dead space to get killed off immediately, it makes it difficult to appreciate the vision. I mean, I don't know why the spawns are so bad in the Warzone era, but they are. I don't know why we can't just go back to old school spawn systems, but we don't. How many solid maps have to be destroyed by the new spawn logic before we go back? I don't understand it. And at number 1 today, no shocker, Shipment, Modern Warfare 2019 and beyond, like Buzz Lightyear would say. I could honestly get past on all the layout changes to Shipment if the spawns weren't so crap. I know, I'm old. I just want classic Shipment to come back, and I know I'm always annoyed at the constant layout changes to Shipment every new remake, but I could adapt if the spawns actually let me adapt. I feel that way. The spawns on every version of Shipment post Modern Warfare 2019 have been deliberately hectic and deliberately unbalanced. If Infinity Ward put some time into making structured, predictable spawns like Shipment from classic 2007 Shipment or even COD World War II Shipment, then these new layouts would work. But the spawns destroy any chance of that possibility. To me, all these new Shipments deserve to share the top. All of it, right? There you have it, my friends. Let me know where you agree or disagree. I'll see you soon.